A little bit of good news. It's another beautiful day in northern Arizona, right? It's nice to be here in Sedona. Before I start, I just want to say thank you to the folks from Red Rock High School, Deborah and Jeremy, for helping us and hosting us here. And Jeremy especially for helping to dim the lights. It's nice that I can actually see some faces now. So, my name is DustinWoodman. I am the Engineering Division Manager for Coconino County's Public Works Department. And for the last 4 years, my full-time job pretty much has been to work on mitigating the post-fire impacts downstream from the Schultz fire in 2010 on the eastern side of the San Francisco Peaks. That's been no small task. It has required a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money from a lot of people. Fortunately, we are able to do some things there to help reduce the risks of continued post-fire flooding, especially during the monsoon season, but hopefully also in the events of rain on snow events in the wintertime. That's a very different situation than what we're experiencing and seeing here. As you well know, that flooding occurred off the side of the mountain across an alluvial fan, essentially reactivated that alluvial fan. And what we're looking at here, as you all well know, is a situation within a canyon with established drainage ways and very steep slopes. And as you've heard from the Bear team and others, some highly severely burned areas. The good news is that through our experience with Schultz, we have assembled a really top-notch team of experts, both within our organization and partners, many of which you see up here and throughout the audience, and consultants, experts in the field of hydrology and civil engineering and watershed restoration. And so what we have done over the last couple of weeks is try to take a look at how we might be able to use what we've learned in our Schultz experience to assess the risks to specifically private property and public infrastructure within Oak Creek Canyon and actually down beyond and through the city and into the Yavapai County. We've assembled a great team of folks who have been working over the last couple weeks in the canyon doing assessments of private properties, and I'm excited to share some of that. Well, actually, I don't know if I'm that excited to share that information with you, but I'm glad to be here to be able to do so. As you heard already, a couple of potential threats really from the post-fire environment in the canyon. One being actual creek level rises from increased runoff. I think Greg with the Bear team mentioned that depending on the size of the watershed and the basin and the severity of the burn area, the hydrologic response in a post-fire environment could be anywhere from 2 to 8 times greater than in a pre-fire environment. So a lot more water coming down off of those hydrophobic soils. So creek level rise is one risk, but perhaps the more immediate risk, as Brian Klimowski mentioned, is the risk of flash flooding and debris flows coming off of the very steep slopes in the western part of the canyon, particularly north of Slide Rock State Park and up to Pump House Wash, where the area has been fairly severely burned. The very steep slopes have lost a lot of their vegetation, and the potential for landslides and debris flows and flash flooding is, we believe, significant. So I'm going to spend some time talking more about that risk today. Our assessment team, as I mentioned, is made up of members of Coconino County Public Works Department, also our Community Development Department and Environmental Health, and lots of partner organizations, consulting engineers, including Civil Tech Engineering, Natural Channel Design, both of which are here tonight, and importantly, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, who have been with us since the very early days of the Schultz fire and flooding, and we're one of the first people that we called when we wanted to start looking at assessing the impacts here in Oak Creek Canyon. So they're here as well. And I just want to reiterate, top-notch team of talented individuals dedicated to doing whatever we can to help mitigate risks. The assessment process, up to about a couple of days ago, really, the assessment process was not so much based on hard science, but more on visual inspections, observations, preliminary information coming out from the Bear team, and past experience in these kinds of efforts. That is continually being updated, and our assessment is continually being refined as new information comes out, the final results from the BEAR team, some information from the USGS on landslide risks, which I'll talk to in just a moment. So we're continuing this assessment process. It's by no means done. We want to continue to refine those results and make sure that we're painting the most accurate picture possible. But the results that we have to share with you tonight are somewhat preliminary, based on not so much a hard scientific analysis. And what we really did was break up the canyon into two areas: one, so that we could maximize the use of our resources, but two, because we really think that, again, the most immediate risks to life, property, public safety, infrastructure is in the northern half of the canyon from Slide Rock State Park up to Pump House Wash. But we are also assessing the area south of Slide Rock to the city boundary, and also looking at assessments through the city and then down through the county as well, working with the city and with Yavapai County. Before I go on, can I just get a quick show of hands of numbers of residents and property owners within the northern part of Oak Creek Canyon, Slide Rock State Park up to Pump House? Okay, good. Thank you. I just wanted to kind of get a sense of how many folks were here from that group. One of the first things we did was try to get a handle on how many properties, private properties, and who the property owners were in both of these sections of the canyon. We utilized the Coconino County Assessor's Office to go through the tax rolls and get whatever contact information we could, the most current contact information we could for all property owners within the canyon, and then really did an assessment of what kinds of properties there are. As everyone knows, there are a number of rental properties, there are a number of second homes, there are a number of undeveloped parcels as well. But there are a significant number of primary residences as well. This is a breakdown. I won't go through the numbers specifically, but and then the next slide is a breakdown of that same information for the area south of Slide Rock to the city boundary. And so we're using this to really help prioritize areas for assessments and prioritize where the highest areas of risk are located. The process is really looking at the burn severity and the topography and how those two things relate to those developed areas downstream, and looking at, again, those risks specifically to life, property, public infrastructure, and utilities, propane tanks, water and wastewater systems, other utilities, etc. Pardon me while I flip the page. Coming out of the assessment process is really the question we're trying to answer is, are there any mitigation measures that we might be able to work with property owners on to help install, work with the NRCS and others to help to fund prior to the monsoon season? Are there viable mitigation options to at least even provide a limited level of mitigation? But importantly, with two additional caveats. One, we're very concerned about creating additional impacts potentially to adjacent properties or downstream properties. And we're also very concerned about the possibility of creating a false sense of security. I think that everyone that you've heard from so far has impressed upon all of us the potential severity of the situation here. And so we're very concerned about proposing a mitigation strategy for a particular structure and having folks feel like that is going to mitigate the issue, because the probability is that it will not mitigate the whole issue, if it's even possible in the first place. So we've been going through and documenting our assessments of all the private properties and trying to build up our list of contact information for property owners and documenting where we think there might be some form of viable mitigation strategy for particular parcels, and in some cases documenting why we believe that there aren't any viable mitigation strategies that we might be able to suggest to property owners. The mitigation options that we've been considering are some of the more traditional ones you may be familiar with, some that we've used with success in the Schultz area, Sandbags, and I just want to make a side note real quick that We are in the process of producing some sandbags for transport down to Oak Creek Canyon in the near future, and I wanted to recognize the Arizona Conservation Corps crews who are here with us tonight, who are helping us do that work. My family. Also, concrete jersey barriers, K-rails you see on the side of the highway. And we're really thinking out of the box. All of our consulting engineers and everybody on the team is really thinking about, are there any other out-of-the-box things, non-traditional methods, creative options that we have to provide some level of viable mitigation. And then unfortunately, one of the considerations is also no action, a no action recommendation. The reasons for that are that there are several challenges with providing mitigation in many of these locations, and those include just the potential magnitude of the post-fire flooding and debris flow potential, the proximity of many structures to those steep slopes. In some cases, homes, as you may know, are built into the side of the hill and the steep slopes, and the burn area start immediately in the backyard. Access for people and equipment to be able to get in and install these kinds of measures. And then proximity to the Forest Service boundary, and particularly the wilderness boundary. As I'm sure you know, there are limitations to what can be done, both on national forest land, but more importantly within wilderness areas. So I have a wonderful, able assistant here, Alan Hayden, who's going to help me start a couple of videos that I want to show you real quickly. I'm not able to do it with the little doohickey here, so I asked him to help out. This is a video that our road maintenance superintendent, Ted Wolf, who's in the audience tonight, an intrepid bushwhacker, took to kind of demonstrate something you probably all have seen, just the severity of the burn area. Previously, we were looking south. It's the western side of the canyon that you can see there. That's the confluence of West Fork, and now he's panning to the right. And you can see as he pans up, it's not very clear. I think he probably took it with his iPhone, which is good technology, but you know, has some limitations. And but you can see the steep slopes, the severity of the burn area, and particularly now again looking south in that area north of Slide Rock State Park. Of course, the creek and the highway and the developed areas, as you all know, lie right within the trees. You can see some rooftops and things through the video. The next video is a view of one of the property assessments that we've done. In fact, the next three videos are, so go ahead, Alan, please.